This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Paige Royal with Paige Royal Coaching. Paige, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely. I think that was the first time I've said a name 3 times so consecutively because it's in your business. But we're looking forward to learning about what Paige Royal Coaching is. Now that you gave me a little bit of insight in the pre-show, I definitely have some of my own questions. But let's get right into it. What is Paige Royal Coaching?
Yeah, Paige Royal Coaching is I'm essentially a mindset coach for entrepreneurs. So I help entrepreneurs who are feeling stuck or they're feeling blocked, whether it's in the areas of money, having money blocks or business blocks, self-sabotaging behaviors like procrastination and perfectionism, all those kinds of things. And sometimes health, right? For entrepreneurs, they can put everything into the business and not be looking after themselves. So kind of look at the holistic picture, and I'm working on their mindset. So it's not about marketing strategies or anything like that, although I can come up with ideas and strategize like spitballing kind of thing. It's more about what's blocking them mentally and emotionally from taking it to the next level or moving forward. Oftentimes they know what they need to do and they're just not doing it. So yeah, that's where I come in.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I like to let people know that although this business is, my baby kind of thing, it's the thing we've built over many, many years. I went through issues in my own life and family's life, friends' life when it came to addiction dependency. And that led me to learning some skills, answering my own problems, and some of friends and family led me to becoming a peer support and counselor at an addictions facility on the weekend. So many of those same topics, I imagine, come up with you. And I'm curious, I always like to ask this question. To me, there is no doubt about it. There is no argument from my point of view that our mind is like this limitless source that a lot of us, I think we could all argue, don't understand completely. It's this incredible universe in there, but it seems to be the main thing stopping us from reaching our goals. It doesn't seem to be a heart thing with me, depending on how people define spirit or soul. It seems to be a mind thing. We have this internal roommate upstairs chattering away, saying what it wants to say. And a lot of those things are often negative, depending on where you've come from, your background, your environment, and all the experiences have made you you. But I like to ask because I'm so curious about psychology, especially. That's the main subject that I study for counseling, and it helps very much in life and marketing, study psychology and philosophy, so we can learn more about human behavior and what it is to be a good human. But what do you think it is, the most common thing that blocks us when I say, Paige, I want this thing, and I'm convicted in it. I really want it. It's not false. I really want it. And then you work with me for the next 2 months, and I'm not putting the necessary steps in to achieve that thing. What do you think the most common thing is blocking us from achieving all these things we want in life?
Yeah, it's your past. And it is. That's the common theme for everyone. It's how I work my business. It's what, sets me apart from other coaches out there, is that the first thing that I want to do is, when we're young, say zero to age 8, that's when, if anyone has kids who's watching this, they know that their child is like a little sponge. They listen, they repeat, they model, they like mirror what we do, right? If you say a really bad word, then the next thing you know, your kid's saying the bad word or whatever. But they're also absorbing like whoever they're modeling, whoever their parents are, or whoever is taking care of them. They're modeling their beliefs, they're adopting those beliefs, they're adopting values. There'll be experiences, traumas, different things like that happen when they're younger. And then that deepens the belief about themselves. We make all these stories up, like we're meaning making machines essentially. And even if we have had had like a really amazing upbringing in childhood, we can still make things mean things that are not conducive to us later in life, right? And then we try to prove those things to be true. So then we start creating experiences, self-sabotaging behaviors, all those kinds of things to prove the belief that we have, which is oftentimes negative, to be true. So that's what happens. And at the root of that, I would say the biggest emotion would be fear. So
Fear. Damn.
good old
Why are we
fear.
so why are we so afraid? It's interesting. Again, philosophy and psychology teach me a lot about this. I have some great mentors in my life, some great teachers that teach me, but it's interesting. It seems like in many cases, anxiety, I think a symptom of fear in many cases. I'm fearing that public speaking, and that shows up in a symptom in my body is clammy hands, clammy pits, anxiety, heart pressure elevating. It seems like from my experience that the majority of the fear is preemptive to the experience. Once we're in the experience, like when I'm walking up the stairs to go bungee jumping, that's when the fear is at its height. When I actually jump off, now I'm, got this rush, endorphins are going, the adrenaline's pumping. And the same thing with public speaking. That was one of the things that was a real obstacle for me years ago. And the fear was high before. But once I got on stage and I started talking, started flowing into that conversation, the fear starts to settle. So do we have any idea why the fear is? Because if the fear is always before the action, it's no wonder we stop before we go to the action. So what is it about? I'm not even in the experience yet. So I'm not even in that battle, that obstacle. I'm not even there yet. I'm in a safe place, yet I'm fearing what is to come.
Well, we're telling a story. And the story, we're telling a story about, we're playing out all the scenarios, right? Like how this could go well, but most often how this could go poorly or really, really bad, trying to figure out, what's going on. It's the unknown and the uncertainty, of what we're about to do. And a lot of that is rooted in the past because we've had a past experience. Maybe we were in, we had to do public speaking, because I remember I had to do public speaking when I was a kid. I had to get up in the gymnasium on the stage, right? And do public speaking, and someone laughed. That's all it takes. All it takes. Or it could be that, in your home and you didn't feel that you had a voice. So you never like spoke, like you've never spoken, like you don't speak to people, right? No one wants to hear, this was part of mine, right? Like no one wants to hear what you have to say. Just don't, if it's not positive, like leave it alone, kind of thing. And so then this creates, I always look at it is our brain is like a giant filing cabinet, and it has all these rooms in it. And the rooms are labeled with emotions like fear, guilt, shame, anger, frustration, whatever on one side. And then on the other side, you've got happiness, joy, adventure, fun, like all these other ones on this side. But through life, we pick up a lot of experiences, a lot of negative experiences, and we tend to grasp onto those. And we've put them in those rooms of those labels. And then in those rooms, there's like the filing cabinets with the drawers that pull out and the accordions. If anybody's worked in an office, I used to be a paralegal. So, and then in those, there's file folders, right? And our brain likes to categorically file things so that it creates this memory and it creates this protection, this safety, right, around us, even though it can be really like not what we want. We just want to get up on stage and speak, right? But now we have all this evidence that's collected in this file folder that sometimes turns into drawers, into entire filing cabinets, to say, don't even bother, don't even try, because we already know what happens when you do that. You get laughed at. So just shut her down, right? So that's how our brain kind of shuts down on the thing that we know we want to do, and we really think that we need to do. And it's based on past experiences. It deems it what's safe and what's not, even if it's what's best for our business and for our lives. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing you say this, and human potential is
Yeah.
one of my greatest passions. I find human beings so incredibly interesting, and by studying others, I learn more about myself.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about these filing cabinets, building up all this evidence to say, don't do that, don't even try. All I can think about is you got laughed at, you, the general you, not you, but in this
Mhm.
example, why is that even so bad? Right? Like, I'm still safe. I'm not hurt. I'm not bleeding out on the floor. There's nothing wrong with my organs. Why do we give such a shit about other people's thoughts about us? And often our perception of the way they perceive us is inaccurate. Most of the time, people
100%.
are wrapped up in their own thoughts and not thinking about us. But if I wear this type of clothing, or I do this type of hair coloring, or I go out on my own and try to open my own business or start a podcast or whatever it is, I'm thinking, how are these people going to view me? And now I'm not going to do it because I may not like the way they view me. I don't even know why that matters so much. That's been something I've been mulling over for the last several years. I think by mulling it over, it has made me care a little less about what people think.
Mhm.
Now, I don't want to ever say I care nothing about what people think, because I share this planet with other people. If I went around hurting people and didn't care what they think, I would never recognize maybe that I was hurting people. But it seems like we care so much about what other people think. And just working through that fear that my judgment of myself should be more important of other people's judgment of me.
100%. Yeah. It's a
Hard to
big
get
show.
that.
It's a big showstopper for people. Yeah, the fear of what other people will think. And the thing is people are fearing the same thing. They're worried about what other people are thinking, and other people are worried about what other people are thinking. I mean, it's not everyone, but it's a lot of people that, everyone I come into contact with, including my own self, right? I used to worry about that a lot. And it's such a limiting story, because everyone's wrapped up, like you said, wrapped up in their own lives, worrying about their own things. And if they did remember something and they did bring it and made fun of it, it's like, that's not someone you want in your world anyway. Like, it's just not, right? Like, and when you're in business, I will say it's like the biggest ride of personal development, because at the end of the day, we are our biggest obstacle. There's no thing out there bigger than ourselves to overcome, to get to the next level, or even to just start. Right. And so yeah, I forget where I was going with that. I was on a roll. But yeah, it's like, we're our biggest obstacle, right? And it doesn't matter what other people think, because it's like that great quote by, I think it's Roosevelt, but Brené Brown said it. It's like being in the arena. It's like, never mind the people sitting in the seats up here, throwing things or whatever. You're in the friggin' arena, right? Like, talk to the other people who are in the arena, and talk to the ones who cheerlead, right? You want cheerleaders in your life, period. Right? We don't need the naysayers or anything like that. We need to be surrounded, especially when you're building a business. It's like, I always talk about environment so much. Environment matters, right? It matters who you surround yourself with and where you be, you know, because it's like osmosis. You want to be around those people who are lifting you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Great quote from Teddy Roosevelt.
Mhm.
What is just phenomenal. Live through the ages, that one, and it's so true. I call them doers and watchers of life. The
Yeah.
watchers like to be on the stands and not participate because there's usually a fear there. And then the doers, whatever it is that's pushing them forward, usually something meaningful or purposeful. They're thinking about their impact, and they're on that arena getting their ass kicked. It's a very respectful way to go about life. But yeah, when you said entrepreneurship, it is the avenue that I've chosen to develop myself, to find out what I'm
Yeah.
capable of, because you got to put yourself out there. So your reputation's on the line. You're going to constantly face challenges. You're going to constantly have your butt kicked. But it is a phenomenal, for me anyways, avenue to figure out who you are. So that's our first question that has taken us 15 minutes out of 9. I thought I was going to enjoy this conversation, but we need to continue on to find out more about you. So if you can tell us quickly, because there's a few major questions that I want to get to this one. As I said already, humans fascinating. The storytelling side of life is how we connect, right? It's our way of communication. And there is a story to you developing this business, to me developing my business. So can you share a little bit about the story behind building Paige Royal Coaching?
Yeah. Well, I grew up, Cole's notes, I grew up on a farm outside of Creamer, Ontario, up on the 5th line for anybody who knows that area. And so I always wanted to start a business. I was a corporate securities paralegal for probably 20 years, working overseas in the UK, in Toronto and out in BC. And then I always knew that I wanted to start my own business, and I just didn't know how. I was 21 years old. There was still the yellow pages, internet just came out, and I was like, and I didn't know anything, right? Or at least I thought I probably did then. And so fast forward, 20 years, I become a registered holistic nutritionist, and I'm thinking, what do I do with this? Because it was just sort of a passion thing that I did. But then when I moved to Barrie, I got into, I was a massive cyclist. I was a mountain biker, road rider, all that kind of stuff. And then I saw an issue of people crashing in the road group, Barrie Cycling Club. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to start a clinic or a women's group and get people and teach them really how to ride in a group and how to do skills. And so I did that. And then I'm sure there's people listening who will know who they are. They're the Pure Vita Mavericks. So we had a really cool kit riding around Barrie, Horseshoe Valley, all that kind of stuff. And then, fast forward, so nutrition kind of came into that as well, how to fuel people. And then the pandemic happened. And for a couple of years, I couldn't do in-person clinics. So luckily, the year before, I had, I guess in 2017, I quit before I was ready. I quit my corporate paralegal job and went all in on my business, but I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be sustainable. So I sold everything that I owned. I bought a teardrop trailer and a van, and I took off to the States with my bikes in there. And I built my business from my teardrop trailer. Her name was Foxy Cleopatra. And my van was gold member because I was driving a gold van, and I'm not a mom. No shame there or anything like that, but it was a gold van, and I was like, wow, okay. And threw the bikes in, and I took off, and I really grew my business from Catalina State Park in Oro Valley, Arizona. And then I came back, and I did my first training for what it is that I do now with mindset coaching. And then a year later, I got my master practitioner coaching. And then 6 months later, the pandemic hit, and I could no longer run clinics. So it was just divine timing of how all that led up. The universe was really on my side here. And I just took the community that I had built with the cycling and just switched gears and was like, okay, who needs help with mindset? And so I did my first, what I call breakthrough, with one of my cycling clients, Joan. And I did it within the week after I got all my certifications, and she had a massive breakthrough, and her life has never been the same since. So I was like, okay, let's do this. It changed my life too. Right. So, and that's why I do it. I can't, sell something that I don't fully believe in and that I haven't experienced myself and really eat, sleep, and breathe. So I'm helping people in a deeper way, which is what I always wanted anyway. It was a bizarre way to go about it. The decision got made for me, it was like, we're going to give this business away. And here you go. You're in the deep end.
But you still had to make that choice. You had to
Oh yeah.
still, life gives you lemons type of thing, right? You still made that
Oh
choice. You
yeah.
pivoted and you made the most out of an opportunity, which is a testament to your character. Many people were beat down from the pandemic. Some people allowed it to become an opportunity to build them up. And I think that's the way the most successful people in my life look at challenges. There's a great book. It's called, if you're into Stoic philosophy or not, I'm not sure, but it's called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's ancient philosophy from
Heard of it.
a couple thousand years ago. And it is in that moment. And it talks about in that book, because I think it was released in, 2021 or something, about the pandemic and how these great challenges are in front of us. So what do you do with them? It's like, well, you let that wave crash over you and then you wash up on the sand and you're less than after that challenge, or you find out how to swim, right? And
Yeah.
learn this new skill. So I think it's great. Mindset is such a powerful thing. And I don't think there will ever be a summit to hit where I say to myself, okay, I've done all the mindset training in my life. My brain is now honed into perfection. Just like the human journey, I don't think you will ever reach a limit before my final day. So I love that you do that. And I think your story is a very, very interesting one. A bit of a roller coaster, but it's led you to this place. And it seems like you're pretty
Yeah,
happy in that place.
I am. Thank you. Yeah.
Very- So something that we like to delve into this, all the questions have a reason for it, but there's more important questions than others. And one of the things we want to do is, because the whole podcast is, its purpose is to enrich the lives of our local community by bringing on experts to not only get their business out there, let the audience know that there is services like this out there, because maybe not everybody knows about mindset coaching, but while they're on the show, we like to give as much valuable information as we can to impact the lives as much as we can. So myths and misconceptions, that is inaccurate information that I have in my head that is now directing my decision-making ability. If someone could clarify that information, like for me, a perfect example was I grew up that typical man, stuff down your emotions, of vulnerability is weakness. That was a misconception that I had about emotions and I had about connecting with other humans when I was taught the strength in vulnerability. That was one of the things that I really can think of a very specific time that life opened up to me drastically, is to be able to share my human experience as close to reality as it is without tainting it or exaggerating it. So that's because somebody gave me proper information to clear out that misconception of men can't be vulnerable because vulnerable men are weak, right? That was the misconception.
Oh
So
yeah, it's huge.
when it comes to your business, what kind of myths or misconceptions are out there? Somebody's saying, like, why would I need mindset training? I'm at $1 million a year in annual revenue. I want to go to 2 million, and we need to focus on marketing and sales acquisition and our churn ratio, not mindset. Maybe something like that. What are your thoughts when it comes to myths and misconceptions?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of something like that, I had a client who, very successful guy, and he was just always curious. He was like, he had executive coaches and different things like that, and then when he hit onto me, he's like, oh wow, this woman is different. And he came by referral, so someone that he knew that referred me. And he thought, okay, this is interesting, I'll talk to her, but I'm not sure about this whole thing. Because used to have a certain way of doing things. But he had this curious mind, like, how much better could it get? And what is it? Because I think a lot of people are starting to realize, like, that their past do block them. And we're not consciously aware of what those blocks, 9 times out of 10, we're not consciously aware what the block is. And my question is to those kind of people is just like, what happens if it could get even better? Like, what happens if you could take it even further? Right. And there's something there that you're completely unaware of that is preventing you from even seeing that next level, like even realizing that you could go there. Right. That's my question. And so I love people who are curious about, so this guy was curious, right? He was just like, yeah, and I know that I've got a lot of behaviors right now. They're not, like, people have to get real honest with themselves and be like, okay, yeah, you look real successful and everything like that, but what, sorry, calling people out, but like, what's going on between here? What's the conversations you're having between here on the daily? Because it actually doesn't have to be negative, or It doesn't have to be doubt. It doesn't have to be fear, because I have a different level of the same sort of thing. It's kind of like peeling back an onion, right? Some people don't need coaching because they don't think they do, right? But the people who are curious and they're like, I wonder how much better my personal life could get. I wonder how much better things in my business could get. And they're constantly thinking, oh, they love to learn and they love to see. And those are kind of the people that I'm interested in working with, that are curious, right? I typically work with people who are really stuck, but it's, you can be making a lot of money and still have blocks.
Oh yeah. I imagine we all do.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've come across somebody who says there is nothing that needs to be refined about my life at all. And so much of our life is rooted in our mind. I love the quote, we build it twice. We build it once in our mind and we build it in reality, whether good, bad, or indifferent. Right. So for the curious people out there that their goal is really, I'm on this planet for a short time, long time, whatever it is. It's a finite amount of time that really want to soak up the marrow of life, really get the most out of it. Check into something like this. Like really, I believe for me, it is the mind is where performance, quality of life, gratitude, appreciation, all of that's going to come from, for me, knowing myself better. And then for the people that are stuck, look into something like this, and see what it can do for your life, like you said. Because even though that I didn't have necessarily a mindset coach designated as a mindset coach, counselors, other different types of therapies, great mentors in my life, and almost all of them in some way, you got to check upstairs. You just got to check upstairs. And that's where so many of the books came from. That's from my interest in psychology. I mean, when you say mindset, one of the first things that pops to mind, because she's branded herself so well, was the person, Carol Dweck, who really started growth mindset, right? I mean, she started the science behind that. Phenomenal book. So I really appreciate you clarifying that for us and the type of people that would benefit from it and the type of people you work with outside of business, because business is important. The personal side of it. What does Paige get up to? We like to find out what you do for fun. So outside of business, what are you getting up to for fun? You were telling me there was monkeys on your roof, so I imagine nature is a part of your life in some way. It's too bad they wouldn't come in here. I'd love to see them.
I know.
But I imagine they'd mess up the podcast pretty quick.
They probably would. Yeah. No, they were howling outside my window. Yeah. I love to travel. So I'm in Costa Rica right now. That's one of my big things. My top values in business and in life is, the top value for me is freedom. And then the second and third is fun and adventure. And if I'm having that, then life is good, And so I've built a life where I can have all three. So right now, yeah, I'm in Costa Rica with monkeys outside my window and the beach like 3-minute walk that way. So life is pretty sweet. But yeah, being outside is definitely where I love to be, whether it's hiking, biking, mountain biking, road riding, whatever it is. I love being active outside. So right now it just is walking on a beach. So
hey, there's nothing wrong with that. We're taking the team to Punta Cana in 2 days. Been on vacation 2 years. So I'm looking forward to it. But I love that for a mindset coach, something is one of the things that I want to be looking for, because I think fitness is such a foundation for life across the board. For me, it's health is what gets done before everything else, because I'm a better son, I'm a better friend, I'm a better partner, better leader when the brain is working and firing the way it should be and the body isn't complaining at me because it hasn't moved in a while. So health is number one for me, and everything comes after that. And I love that you're a mindset coach, because I think health and mindset align so well that that's a major priority for you. You've already talked about your education and passion for nutrition and then movement. And it does not surprise me at all that nature is in there. There's something, I can't quite touch it, describe it in words, but you know it when you're there. Yeah. When you're in nature, this like wash over you, you de-stress in a forest, on a beach. So it's fantastic. But pivoting a bit from the fun stuff is we like to talk about doing hard things on this show. I have my rules for life on my arm, and number 4 is do hard things to remind me when I'm going through that emotional chaos, who I want to be in the moment. I find it's easy to be who you want to be when things are going well, much harder to be who you want to be when things are a little chaotic. So we want to be a part of the trend, as there is a trend out there for the last several years. I think it's a very powerful one that talks about the anti-fragility of our human species. When stress puts up against us, we often are given the opportunity to grow to a certain extent. If we're in a place of comfort constantly, I don't think we grow. Whereas, a windshield, if you keep hitting it, it will eventually break. So there's a sense of fragility there. I think for us humans, if you look at the muscle or the mind in a way, the more stress you put on it to a certain extent, the stronger and more resilient it will grow. So we like to shine a spotlight on our trials and tribulations, because I think a lot of those pivotal moments in our life were through our most difficult times. So we like to ask the guests on the show, are there any trials and tribulations, hardships that you've been through that sucked in the moment, right? Because our body lets us know of that symptom immediately. That probably sucked in the moment, but when you look back in hindsight, you say, I would not remove that experience from the recipe that is me, because it was so integral to me enjoying my life the way I do now.
There has been several. One that was the biggest one. I mean, they were all pretty big, pivotal moments. But the one that really kind of changed the trajectory of my life, they all did. It's kind of hard to pick one. But when I quit my job before I was ready, that was like probably one of the most challenging decisions I ever made. It was very stressful, but I had lost like part of the sight in my eye and went to like top ophthalmologists, and like no one could tell me anything. They looked behind it, in front of it, and they're like, are you under a lot of stress? And I said, yeah, actually I am. I'm driving the 400 3 hours a day minimum to a job that I didn't enjoy, and racing back to do my passion, which was the cycling, and hoping that the highway would stay open and there'd be no accidents and I'd be able to get there on time. And making that decision before I knew financially, like I wasn't in a place to do it, and I did it anyway. That was probably, I don't recommend that. But I kind of look at everything that I've done. I've always taken the path kind of less walked, and I've always wondered why I did that. Like I would be like, why do I need to, I want to go this way, but my everything in me is saying going this way, but I don't know what I'm doing this way. And now, like, fast forward to like, I'm 47 now, and I'm like, oh, that's why all that happened, because I needed all these life experiences. There's not much that people can bring to me that I haven't either experienced or know someone who has experienced. So I'm grateful for all of it. There's not one thing that I would ever change, even the real gnarly stuff. And because it really made me a pretty amazing human, and able to help people in a really deep way. So, but that one there with quitting the job and going all in, and then selling everything and taking off in my van, and I had never towed before, so I didn't even know how to back the thing up or anything, So it was like, that's the kind of person that I am, is to feel that fear and take action anyway, right? So yeah.
I love it. That is another one. I told you do hard things is number 4. You said fear, and then take action. Number 5 is fear is your green light. But one of the things that I really liked from your story is all of our entrepreneurs share some pretty personal stories on here, and we love that, really get connected with them. But you said that has all led to me being a pretty amazing person. We've done hundreds of podcasts. Very few people have shared with others how they actually feel about themselves in a positive light. It's easy to be self-deprecating, right? We all get a laugh from that, and that seems to be easy. But if I feel really great about myself, I'm a stand-up person, I have great character, people don't want to say that. So, I give you a lot of credit, because that tells me right away that you've done a lot of work on yourself, at least from my perspective, to be confident enough to say, this has all led to me becoming a pretty amazing person. I hope the audience really heard that, because we have this idea that it's off-putting for other people to say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
For us to say about ourselves, if we really enjoy ourselves, because we think somebody would think they're being arrogant or they're being conceited or they're being cocky. Shouldn't we want to enjoy ourselves? And if we do, shouldn't we share that with other people so that we can be a beacon for them to start encouraging them to enjoy themselves more? It really stood out to me when you said that, because most guests don't say that. They all share creative stories and pivotal stories, but that really stood out to me. All of this led to me being a pretty amazing person. And I just think it's a fantastic thing to be able to feel that way about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Pivoting back to say that again.
I said it's how I feel.
and that's the point. Like we share our negatives more commonly than we share how, like, if you really enjoy yourself, let people know that, because they can see it.
But we're hardwired that way, like we're hardwired to connect on our problems and
our suffering, or common suffering, right?
Our self-critiques and different things like that. And I would love to see more people genuinely say, like, you know what, I'm a pretty amazing person. Like I actually really dig myself. Like I do love myself, like, and I know that can really strike a nerve with people, but it's when it comes from that place of like authenticity, it's pretty cool to get to witness. It's awesome.
Yeah. And imagine that was our common ground that we were all connecting on, what the world would look like. Everybody was really like, I don't go home after work and beat the shit out of myself mentally. I go home and enjoy my silent time, and I'm not stressed right to the fingertips. It's a pretty cool place to be. It takes a lot of internal work, I think. Really getting to know yourself, which is a journey on its own. I think a never-ending one. But I think character leaves clues. And I think you are leaving those clues here in this podcast today, that you are a practitioner of what you preach, which isn't, from my experience, the most common thing. Going back to business a little bit, Paige, we have a few minutes left here, and I want to ask you two questions.
Okay.
One, I would hopefully could be shorter than the second, because I think the second is more important. So if you could distill all that you've learned down into your business, if you could distill all that you've learned in your business down into one statement that you would want our audience to know about your business, what would that be?
About my business.
Or about you and your business?
Two things, I would say. For people, this isn't about me. I mean, I already did this, right? It's how I know that it works. Release your past. Everyone's got one, and there's stuff in there that can block you from moving forward. And so that would be my biggest one. And I have to do two. I can't help it. Two, you must focus on what you want in whatever way that you do that. My recommendation is through visualization. It's how the unconscious mind works, through what you feel, hear, see, taste, smell. So if you want something, focus on it, but bring it up in your mind, because we work in pictures, and really feel into what that feels like, and you'll collapse time. So let go of the past and focus on what you want. Collapse time between you being where you are and getting what you want. That's what I would distill it down into.
I love it. Now, that's great advice, by the way.
Thank you.
My favorite question. Oh, I gave you the suggestion to not let anything beep, and then I'm beeping over here.
Oh.
Not even following my own advice.
I turned off my phone.
Dang it. I'm beeping. So my favorite question on the show is about impact. It's something that I spend a great deal of time thinking about. I am born, I will die one day. What is going to be my impact on this planet? Am I going to leave it better than I found it? And mentors, again, behind every excellent person, I think there's an excellent teacher, and mentor led me to the point of encouraging me to think about my impact. So, what has been my impact up to this point? Be intentional about my impact for each day, as I don't know if I'm going to get tomorrow. Time is very much out of my control in many senses. And then for however long I am here, what do I want my impact to be? So we like to ask the guests on the show, Paige, what would you like your impact to be?
Honestly, my thing is, I want people to live their life on their terms, period. It's really important to me to see people. I think we get culturally and socially conditioned to think that we need to do things in a certain way because of what we've seen and modeled, and we oftentimes think that this is what so-and-so would think that I should do instead of what I want. Like, what do we want? And so my legacy, impact, whatever it is to help as many people live their life and do their business, but mostly live their life on their own terms and make decisions, big, bold decisions that people may not agree with or whatever. But it's like, we got one life. And like you just said, tomorrow's not promised. So it's, life is, we just don't know. And so what do you want? Like, what do you really, really want? Sometimes people, it's such an ambiguous question. They can't even, they're just in this place of I don't even know what I want. Right. But it's take the things what don't you want? And then what would you want instead? And who cares? If you could do anything you wanted, what would you want instead? And then start. That's the first, starting just doing that. But for me, it's screw the rules. They're all made up by somebody anyway. And live life on your terms and figure out what that is for you. And how you figure that out is you get to know yourself. Start.
If I had a mic that I could drop, I would do the drop. Because I think that was, good stuff, Paige. How can people find out about you if they want to connect?
Yeah, I have my website, pageroyalcoaching.com, and then I'm over on usually in my Instagram stories. That's still the handles at Paige Royal Coaching. And yeah, you can friend me on Facebook. I'm a pretty personable gal at Paige Janine Royal. That's my whole name on Facebook. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Wonderful. Well, it was a pleasure getting to speak to you today, Paige. Your story, your insights, the valuable lessons that you can teach us, and just connecting with you, human to human.
Yeah.
It's been great chatting with you.
It's been so great chatting with you, Jeff. Yeah, I loved it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have a great day, Paige.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.